measures, especially in the last 800 years, not only influence in China, but East Asia. And the reason that is influenced, many people say because he's arrogant, in the sense that he was involved in so many things. He's a good poet. He's a terrific calligrapher. And he did a lot in history, combined a lot of history. And so he's importing literature in history and developed all kinds of textual analysis in a very strict, we call it philological, study the words, sentences, and all these technical, sinological. The word sinological meaning Chinese studies, sinological studies. So he contributed to all these things normally a thinker is not equipped to do that. So he managed to do it. So there are many, many works now, contemporary studies of Zhu Xi's literature, Zhu Xi's philological studies, and Zhu Xi's historical studies. And yet he himself, normally we need to ask the question, a thinker, his own self-definition, what he thought his major contribution turned out to be. And he really, in the modern sense, he really considered himself, in the modern sense, in a broadly defined notion of a philosopher. In other words, a thinker. And you can say that the thinking, based upon the core values, really the focus of his intellectual work. When we say someone is committed to the life of the mind, his life of the mind, not in terms of his politics and other kind of intellectual pursuit, turned out to be his philosophical thinking. And one very basic idea, which some people say is very Buddhistic or very Taoist, is the tranquility of the heart and mind. Last time we talked, I don't know if any of you practice this 1 minute and total silence without any ideas. If any one of you succeeded in being able to remain concentrated either on one thing or without any idea for 1 minute, no other thoughts come into being, let me know. You'll be a good candidate for become a Zen master or a Buddhist master. But anyway, this tranquility of the heart and mind. And this, of course, in the great learning, in the doctrine of the mean, in doctrine of the mean, we talk about try to understand your state of mind before the feelings are aroused. When you think about something, already your feelings, feelings of anger, joy, any kind of feelings, or feelings of satisfaction, or feelings of distress, all these feelings will rise when you become conscious of what you do. So how will we be able to get to a state of mind before the feelings are aroused? This is a very important question. In fact, Zhu Xi's teacher, when he was about 17, 18, he remembered this teacher all the time. The teacher told him, try to understand your state of the mind before the feelings are aroused. To the end, I think to the end of his life, he said, I failed my teacher's instruction. All my life I tried to understand it, I couldn't get it. In other words, couldn't get it meaning experientially, I couldn't get it. And Zhu Xi, in fact, not only he didn't get it, he felt it was not the right thing to do. And he felt even that was more Zen Buddhist than Confucian. So the tranquility of the heart and mind is fine, but the tranquility doesn't mean that when your mind is tranquil, you will immediately be able to understand the state of mind before the feelings are aroused. He believed that it's unrealistic. The argument is that when your mind is peaceful, meaning it's like the ocean, or like the pond that's totally quiet. It's like the mirror. It will reflect of things that present to it precisely as the things are. In other words, no prejudice, no bias. So when your heart is tranquil, then the principle inherent in you will become clear, or you say brilliant. The principle emerges when your heart becomes tranquil. But the heart, or the mind, is a very complex system. It involves two dimensions. The heart and mind is a reflection of your nature, or it's a manifestation of your nature. This is the position of nations. we all know. Why human being, why our nature is good? Because within our nature, which is very different from all the animal nature, are the four beginnings, feeling of commiseration, for example. And precisely because the feeling of commiseration is a defining characteristic of the human heart. It's not the consciousness of a dog or cat. It's the uniquely human capacity. So you understand the goodness of your human nature by your ability to experience the feeling of commiseration which emerges from the innermost recess of your heart. That's why human beings are good. So human nature is good because it manifests in the four beginnings of the heart and mind, which differentiates human beings from other animals. It's a bit complicated if you follow my position. It's not really that not that difficult. That's the difference between human and other. This is Mencius to the core. Zhu Xi feels a little bit uneasy about that. He wants to make the heart and mind more complex. So he said that there are also feelings. Feelings are expressions of the heart and mind. Now, in terms of commonsensical notion, that's very strange. How can you say that feelings are not, feelings are not integral part of the heart? Now, Mencius say, of course, feelings are integral part of the heart, but what kind of feelings? Not your joy and so forth. It's commiseration, empathy. That is, the dog can become angry. The dog can become, on the surface, can become very happy. But why the uniqueness of being human is that we have the kind of feeling which can make us great, make us very different from the animals. This is Mencius' idea. Zhu Xi feels uneasy about it and introduced this idea of feelings or even passions. So in a way, Zhu Xi followed a line of thinking more comparable to Xunzi. The human feelings are passions, and if you do not allow these passions to be harmonized, you allow them to express themselves in an excessive way, the social solidarity will not be maintained. That's why human feelings are considered evil. Human feelings in themselves are not evil, but when human feelings are not properly regulated or harmonized, the evil occurs. Evil means social solidarity cannot maintain. So that Xunzian position influenced Zhu Xi. And another thing to keep in mind is, again, it's something I would say mysterious, at least intriguing. No philosophers or no thinkers of Zhu Xi's generation ever accepted Xunzi as the authentic transformation. Everybody considered themselves Mencian, in the part of the Mencian tradition. So Zhu Xi, of course, also. And yet, there's a twist of his interpretation of Mencius. From our point of view, from my point of view, some element of the Xunzian notion actually enter into the picture. You may want to think about it. So the heart and mind is dealing with two things. Dealing with nature, which defines what a human being ought to be, but also dealing with passions or feelings. And they are neutral, but they may turn out to be significant for self-cultivation, and they may turn out to be destructive for social harmony. Because this complexity of his notion about human heart and mind, he believed, I think for very important reasons, you cannot deal with the human heart and mind directly. If you try to control it, you try to deal with it, you'll be lost. So following one of the Zhang brothers, the younger Zhang brother, he developed this, what he considered as the most proper way of self-cultivation. By the way, Confucianism can be characterized as self-cultivation philosophy. Learning to be human, meaning you're involved in cultivating yourself. It's a learning civilization. But the cultivation of yourself is never an isolated act. You need to enter into communication with friends and with teachers. So the idea of self-cultivation, from his point of view, the most important state of mind is a sense of reverence, and sometimes translated as seriousness. Reverence is to take everything you do not lighthearted. Everything you do, it doesn't mean that you have to be nervous all the time. Reverence meaning a sense of respect.